Hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is the Kill Cliff Podcast, brought to you by the boys of Entreprenerds Comedy, Josh and John. Hey, listen, the whole point of doing this show was trying to get people on really chasing their dreams, kind of getting after it. And nobody fits that definition better than this week's guest. We're getting big time here, everybody. I want you to know that we got on WWE Superstar Sarah Logan. Sarah's got just an insane story, rising up through the ranks of the professional wrestling. Talks about some of her hobbies, talks about hunting, talks about Viking. She'll kick your ass if you call it LARPing. So it's a great show. Listen, this one's taped a little bit different. John is not in studio. Sarah is not in studio. We are right in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. So this was shot on March 19th. Hey, we want to give a shout out before this whole thing starts to anyone in the healthcare field, your nurses, your doctors, your first responders, your police, your firemen, your ambulance, paramedics, everybody. We're leaning on you heavy right now. So thanks. Keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate you. We're thinking about you. We also want to give a shout out to our boy Dash. If you guys follow anything on Kill Cliff on their social media, you probably know who Dash is. So we got him in our thoughts, and we're hoping he's getting better. And just know we're thinking about you, buddy. So without further ado, let's get Sarah on.
Get this thing going.
I love the name of your podcast.
Let the boy watch.
It was like every 80s rock video.
Cracking with strawberry milk.
Good luck to me.
If I said that without making eye contact, it would have been way better.
This is our intern, Tyler.
No one listening yet anyways. This guy sucks. The juice is flowing.
Maybe just whack him across the face with a corn cob.
It's going to go great. Thank you. All right, cool. Well, I'll tell you what, we're super excited to have you here. So this has been kind of a tough thing to get started, but we actually made it happen. I mean, the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic, it's a real hassle. But I will say, as far as podcasting, it's been a lot easier to get a hold of people. So
I'm sure everyone's like, yeah, I'll talk to you. I'm doing nothing, just sitting in my house.
Yeah. So real quick, how is that just in your profession? How is that affecting you guys?
Well, WB actually is like one of the only sports entertainment companies that is still kind of running. However, we are running shows in front of no crowd, which is super weird for wrestling because we feed so much off the crowd. And if something works depending on the crowd, there could be a storyline going on that everyone hates, but we just don't know because we're wrestling in front of chairs. So that's been weird. But WB has been running shows at the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, which is like WWE's other brand, NXT. It's where they like run shop. It's where new wrestlers come into the WWE like system and get trained to be wrestlers. Like if we hire on like a football player, they don't know how to wrestle, they send them to the PC in Orlando and they become superstars there. So I was there for probably a little over a year before NXT had its like TV show and before when it was still just running on the WWE network. So it's cool that they're still running shows, and they actually just announced that WrestleMania is going to be held at the PC, and it's a 2-day event, which is the first time that's ever happened in history. It's going to be 2 whole days, and I don't watch football very often, but everyone's freaking out that Gronk, Gronk,
Gronkowski, yeah.
He is going to be hosting WrestleMania for 2 days, so that's been some big news.
Yeah. So, we did some research on you leading up to this, obviously, and one thing we saw is
interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a little bit in the interweb about you.
Yeah,
How
nothing
much do
too.
You know?
Not much, but they. But what we did see is that you're obviously into hunting. You kind of grew up in a way where you guys hunted a lot of your own meat. So something like this, as far as we're in this global pandemic. Let's what is today's date? Actually, let's mark this. So we've got a time stamp.
19th of March.
Okay, March 19th. We are dead center or in the worst of right now, one of the worst global pandemics. I know, I mean, it's actually the only one I've ever seen, but, and there's a lot of people freaking out, right? There's a lot of people, like if you pass a gun shop right now, I pass this, it's absolutely insane. I mean, there's 20, 30 people deep outside just waiting to even get in the place. So,
Yeah, and I live in like a real small town. I by choice, and I get all my meat that I haven't hunted from like a local butcher. I get all my eggs from a local this old lady and dude that just live in this house that says eggs painted on a sign in front of their driveway. And like it's not busy, like because it's a small town and like no one lives close to each other. It's fantastic. But I went to my butcher shop. I go every Tuesday. They know my outrageous order because I only eat meat, and it was so packed. It was packed more than I've ever seen it ever. And they were very apologetic, like they didn't have my order. Like luckily I was able to get what I wanted, but they didn't have like my order ready. And I usually go in there, it's all boxed up. I hand them cash and we're good. But it was
is that hat from
packed.
one of your kills?
This is my murder hat. I've killed all my bow animals. Everything I've killed with my bow has been in this hat.
Is that hat from something you killed?
No, this is from, I don't remember where I got it. It's been so long. I'm actually nervous because I haven't been able to find this hat anywhere else. And it's like the perfect hat. Like it fits my head without my ponytail, fits my head with my dreaded ponytail. It's really, really warm. I work out in it. I hunt in it. I've slept in this hat.
Probably smells delicious. Yes.
Yeah, probably. I think I'm just used to my own musk, so it doesn't really smell to me. But probably to the average person, it probably stinks.
I saw you doing squats with one of your pit bulls on your head with that on, I think.
Yeah, I call it the Thunderdome. It's my home gym, and it's been something I've been working on since I've had any kind of extra money, like at all. And like I grew up real poor, and that's why we hunted so much, is because we had weapons we had already purchased and didn't have a lot of money to go to the store. And there were quite there's I have me and my 4 brothers, so there's 5 kids, and that's a lot of mouths to feed. And my papa like hated any kind of government. He didn't trust nobody. And my dad was a retired Marine and like didn't trust the government either. So like if we could help it, we got stuff from around the house. And like my dad is living it right now. He's like, I told everyone. He's like, I've been ready for this shit. Like, wow.
Yeah.
He's going crazy right now. He's actually coming over today so we can. I bought a new AR probably 6 months ago, and I got it sighted in at 200 yards. My dad he's a Marine, so he claims he can iron sights kill something at 500 yards. So I have a 400-yard rifle range on my property. So we're gonna test it at F400 because I called his bluff.
I wish him luck. 18-year-old eyes, and I don't know how old your dad is now. I know me at 44. Those eyes aren't quite the same as they used to be. But
he just turned 53 on St. Patrick's Day. So I have like a loophole scope. Like I got some nice shit on my rifle. So
right.
I'll let you guys know how it goes. Just
I love that your dad's. I love his enthusiasm that he doesn't let it like 53 get in the way of believing he still has those 18-year-old eyes and the same skill set.
Yeah, he's he was a Marine in like Desert Storm, so he's very, very set in his ways, and I mean he's a big reason why I am so like I didn't have to go shopping for this coronavirus. Like I've been ready for something like this ever since. Like me and my dad made sure that everyone who had a firearm in the house, it had the same ammo. So if like me and my dad are fighting a firefight and he dies, I can take his gun and his ammo and know it'll work with my stuff.
Right,
like that's the kind of mindset.
That's the kind of bonding that brings family together.
we're like this out of fear together.
So living in a state of constant preparation. Do you watch the show Preppers?
No, I don't really. I don't have I have internet here, but I watch Parks and Recreation because I love Ron Swanson.
Yeah.
And
You'll have to watch Preppers one day and see if if it just rings home. It's a show about people who who just sit there and prep for the doomsday thing, and your dad's like, yeah, those are amateurs.
Yeah.
Well, like, and the thing is, like, I grew up with like that paranoid mentality, but like, other than prepping my house, like I didn't take any like didn't take any martial arts or like jujitsu growing up. So I was like, I'm so scared for all this stuff to happen, but I don't know what to do when it happens. So that's why when I got out, like I got out like I'm freaking jail. When I grew up and moved out, I like made it a point to like do as much training as I could, and that's why I'm thankful. I found I've been working a lot with Tim Kennedy's company, that Sheepdog Response, and it's been fantastic. Like those guys are just generally concerned, especially like they consider me like a high profile client. Like they're just generally concerned about like my well-being and my safety and like getting me trained up to, like, as they say, become an asset. But they've come to my house and like done security on my house. They've came to my house and like trained. Like they've been fantastic.
Wow.
I want to go into down that rabbit hole a little bit, because you mentioned growing up, and then when you grow up and left that house. I think I saw in another interview, correct me if I'm wrong, but you graduated high school and then you headed off to Japan like shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I knew wrestling was big in Louisville, Kentucky. Like it was one of the, back before like WWE like owned all of wrestling pretty much. There were territories that WWE eventually like bought out. So in Louisville was one of the territories. It was one of the places where wrestling was rich, and it always has been rich. And I grew up watching wrestling with my grandma. Like it was the only thing that made her cuss. Like she loved wrestling. Like every Monday night we were watching, like, because Monday Night Raw has been on for decades.
Yeah.
And like we would watch Raw every Monday, and we'd get a new scary movie at Walmart every Tuesday. Like it was our traditions. And I didn't even think that I could be a wrestler. Like it wasn't something I ever thought was like attainable.
Well, you said you weren't martial arts or anything, right? You were a power lifter in high school or something?
I lived and weightlifted in high school, and I did some like collegiate wrestling, but I don't really consider that like super like combat ready, you know. So I was very active in sports in high school, and but like wrestling to me was like I didn't grow up being like I'm gonna be Rambo, you know, like it was just so unattainable. Like it was just like out of this world. And I went to a death match show in town. So like they were wrestling like barbed wire and thumbtacks and like light tubes, and these guys were just bleeding all over the place and killing each other, and I was getting hit with glass, and I was like, this is crazy awesome. And I was like, I'm really good at getting hurt. I believe I can do this.
Right. So that's the stuff that really inspired you. You went to something, and you know that's not the norm, right? You see people falling down on tacks and glass and stuff, and that's what really got you going. Yeah. So after high school, you move off to Japan to follow your.
Yeah. So 4 days after high school, I first plane ride ever, first time being at the airport ever, and cause I've been working since I was like 15, so I was like 18 at the time, so I saved up money to like go to Japan, and it was a complete culture shock to me. Like everything was just like, I remember going up to the ladies at the airport. I was like 4 hours early because I had no idea what's going on, and I was like, excuse me, like, do you know what gate number I am? And she was like, it's not posted yet. So like every half hour I'd be like, do you know? And finally she was like, look, chick, it's not gonna be posted until like an hour before you know, like 2 hours before you board. And I was like, oh.
So wait, I got to go back because I feel like we almost glossed over. So you're like a high school kid growing up in small town Kentucky, and then you're like, hey, mom, dad, I'm gonna fly across the world and go train like unescorted. Peace out. Like how did that conversation? How did that conversation go?
Well, I told them what I was wanting to do, and like I was a very good student. Like I had a bunch of like AP science credits because I was like growing to biology, and like I went to Prosser, so I was like a certified welder. I could like MIG, TIG, and flux weld. Like I had skills that I could have brought into the real world. And my dad's been a truck driver ever since he got out of the military, and And when I told them, I was like, yeah, screw that. I'm just gonna fall down for a living, and I'm going to Japan. It's probably fine. So they kind of refused to buy my ticket. They're like, we can't stop you from going, because I was a grown ass adult, but they were like, we're not gonna buy your ticket. And I was like, shit. So I ended up trying to afford my own ticket, but like, and honestly, I'm surprised it turned out so well, because I went to Japan, didn't really know where I was staying. I had legitimately like $14 in my pocket. It was like, I'll be fine. So I went, and then when I got there, the dude that was picking me up from like the wrestling company had a sign that I can tell was supposed to say my name, but it was so wrong that like I was like, "Hi, I'm Sarah," and like we got into this van, and I drove 3 hours to Chiba, which is like a small town in Japan, and just started training to wrestle. And like, I mean, I very well done some shit, and like,
oh yeah, this is the beginning of like a Taken movie.
Yeah, like absolutely. So I am surprised it turned out so well, but I was training so much. Like I went from not really like I was, like I said, I played sports in high school, but I was training like I wake up at 9, I would train from 10 to like 4. I would break for an hour, and then I would train from like 6 to 10. Wow. With 2 different types of like wrestling. Like I would train with the Japanese dudes during the day, and then at night I would train. There was a bunch of girls from Mexico that were wrestling's famous, and I was like, "Hey, you want to teach me how to wrestle?" And the first few weeks of their wrestling was them just beating me up to see if I really wanted to. Like we would spar, and they're like, "Oh, it's Mexican style," and they would just beat the shit out of me, like pull my hair, like my fingers, like all my orifices in my mouth, just putting their like it was. But once I got past that part, the training was fantastic, and I still use it today.
How does one reach out to somebody in Japan to even start this whole process?
So I knew a dude that he was a deathmatch like legend in Japan. He's like actually the dude I saw wrestling when I first saw wrestling, and he knew a dude who knew this chick. So like women's wrestling and men's wrestling in Japan is pretty separate. Like there's all women's companies and all men's companies, and they both do fantastic. Right. And so he put me in contact with her, and I just like talked to her via like half broken English emails.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, it was like real nonchalant too. She's like, yeah, if you come, we'll train you and find you a place to stay. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm coming. And I remember before I
feel like this is how ISIS recruited people.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, I'm shocked.
Trust us. Very good.
It was divine intervention that I made it here.
Right.
So I was like, I want to be a wrestler. I'm on my way. And then I was eating butter and jelly sandwiches for months. Like I lost so much weight because I wasn't eating, and I was training, and my body didn't know what was happening. It was.
So how long were you in Japan for?
3 months for 3 separate times. So like I had 3-month visas.
Okay.
So I would go for 3 months, have to come back, renew my visa, go for 3 months, and like I kind of became like my second broken language is Japanese. Like I learned like a child would. I was just so immersed. There was no one else that spoke English around me, so like I can speak Japanese pretty well, like conversationally.
Right.
I can't like go to a business meeting and like whip out a proposal of some sort, but like
talk about stocks.
Yeah, like I can talk to people, and like there's actually a couple girls in WWE that like I am good friends with because they speak they're Japanese. They speak Japanese, cool. And I remember one of the girls that works there now. I was a young girl, so I would be by the ring and like hand you water and like wipe you down after you match. You know, like I was by the ring, and like I'm watching.
Oh, you were definitely being groomed to be sold into some sort of weird slavery.
Oh, they totally had me. I was like putting cool spray on people after I was washing wrestling gear. Yeah, so but there's a girl, her name's Asuka now. She was Kana back in the day. She was famous in Japan. And I remember being a second, and like, which is kind of like your quarter in MMA, you know?
Yeah.
I was like a second, and I'm watching her do her entrance, and she was just freaking awesome. And now she's like my coworker, and I wrestled her, and like a deer hit her car recently. And I had to call National and be like, hey, this happened, because she was hysterical. But it just like bumped it. It was like, it bumped her car. And was like, oh, that was weird, and just like ran away. But
Yeah, I can only imagine your dad being a Marine, a guy who sounds like he's probably skeptical of a lot of things, and being told that his daughter's just going off to Japan for
to
3
wipe
months.
people down, wipe people's sweat off them. Yeah.
Right.
And like I don't know what it is, but Asians love me. I don't know if it's because like I look like I'm 12, but they think I'm adorable as shit. They love me. Like Asuka and Kyrie, like they freaking always like hold my face, and just like
just caress it.
Yeah, just hold me.
Just hold my face.
I'm like, hi, I don't want you touching me, but but my dad was stationed in Okinawa for like 2 years.
Okay.
So, but he only knows, are you over 18 in Japanese, and can I have a Budweiser? That's the only two. I was like, how are you in this country for 2 years, and all you know is those two phrases?
Your dad is such a Marine through and through. Like
Right.
You just perpetuated the stereotype for every Marine. He learned how to get a beer for 2 years.
Meanwhile, your first Japanese words are death match. Like,
oh yeah.
It's a little different.
My first Japanese word was like sorry. I was like, sorry. Excuse me.
All right. So how many matches? I mean, how does that whole process work? I'm pretty naive as far as the Japanese wrestling scene. So you go there, you do whatever you're going to do. At what point are you actually in front of people performing actual wrestling?
Early.
Like,
they would have this thing called dojo shows. And granted, I was already wrestling before I went to Japan.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Badly. Very badly. Like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like, there's a match, like the girl I was in the Riot Squad with, Ruby Riot, there's a match where we wrestle, and we're both like green as shit, like 2 weeks in. And it is the worst match I've ever seen. Like, ever. But we can talk about it later. So
you go back and watch your old stuff now and like laugh at like how amateurish you were?
Actually, it gets sent to me so often about how bad it is, I'm forced to watch it.
That's funny.
It's so bad. But I started wrestling. They have like dojo shows, which are kind of for people that are training at the dojo, and there's like 20 people there. And I used to wrestle in this top that like zipped up in the back, and I'm wrestling this chick from Mexico. Her name's Princess Suhei. She's like awesome. So I'm like bumping my ass off for her, like I'm attacking the mat, and like, and then it was my only move in the match was I just did drop kicks. I drop kicked her, and then I went to the top rope and drop kicked her again. And I was falling so hard, I didn't know my zipper came undone. And I get to the top rope, and my top just falls off. And I'm
instant stardom.
Horrified.
Yeah, instant stardom.
And I've been famous ever since. But no, yeah.
I just want to hold your face.
I just jumped down, and I was like, I was crying. I was like, because I'm super conservative with like even now, like wrestling, like I don't wear makeup. I like, you can't see anything.
Right.
And I don't know. It's just I was mortified. So
yeah, I mean that
first.
When you're so you mentioned, and it's really something I want to discuss in general, because you said like I'm very conservative, but yet you have a different persona, right? It's because you're in an entertainment company. It's a sports entertainment company because you guys are fully athletes. You're getting your asses kicked on the mat, but you mentioned being conservative, but yet you have this like over the top personality, as all the girls do, and guys. And you mentioned one of your Japanese colleagues who now has a different name. So I'm like Josh. I'm so curious, and I think a lot of people.
Yeah, wrestling's weird. Yeah.
Listeners are probably like just an opportunity to hear you talk and see you, and get this side of Sarah Logan and not just the, in the ring Sarah Logan. When you create a personality or create a persona, is there like a science behind it? Is there coaching? If you're going to be good guy, bad guy, or over the top or subtle, like how does that work?
So, in the famous words of Stone Cold Steve Austin, the best wrestling personas are yourself turned up, like times 10.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people, either that or something that's so completely opposite to who you really are, that it's like a whole other personality in itself. Like my character, like, is me just kind of turned up. Like I wear the same like antler stuff as when I hunt. Like I come out in like Sitka camo, And I am just so like normally like all the guys and girls in production office at WWE are kind of like scared of me because I'm really aggressive and I find it funny to bully people, but like I'm really mean, but I mean well, right?
Right.
And I just kind of grew, as I said, grew up before brothers, so like I'm very like hands on, and like I'll like Kurt Angle was getting coffee and I was like, Kurt Angle, you suck, and like we laughed about it and we had fun.
Right.
But like, so I am naturally really aggressive as a person.
Huh?
I like affection through aggression is kind of my deal. So when I'm wrestling, I'm super aggressive, and it just is a natural part of me that I can just open up and let loose inside the wrestling ring.
Yeah.
And like Asuka, the Japanese chick, she's legit, she's like crazy and like rambunctious. And so when she gets in the ring, she just takes the filter off. So like it's kind of like an awesome outlet that it's something that you can just go into and just take your filter off. And as far as like the good guy, bad guy stuff, like usually WWE kind of takes how the crowd sees you and then runs with it.
Yeah. Now, is it something you go to them and be like, hey, I have this idea? Because there's some that make complete sense. You take like a guy like, some of the bigger guys, you take like a guy like The Rock. He's just got that persona, man. Everything matches. The one eyebrow, everything. It just comes natural.
It's
it didn't
the people's
seem
eyebrow.
to me, right. Sorry, whatever. So they, it's not like they, he can come to them and say, hey, I've got this. But then you see, other ones, you're like, he doesn't, that's not the character he's picking. Like he's being told.
Well,
like The Undertaker. I think he's probably a very morose good guy all the time.
Yeah.
That wouldn't work nowadays. If you went to Vince's office and you were like, so I have this idea. I'm dead, but I'm not really dead.
Yeah.
Just
Vince would be like, get out
wrap
of
your
here.
head around that.
Is there, was there anybody that you, when you met them, you were like, holy shit, you are a complete divergence from the person you are on screen?
Bobby Roode is a big one. Trying to think of someone that is. Undertaker's like really. Me and Undertaker are very similar in like American Badass Undertaker is like the Undertaker I see. Like he comes in like 9-line apparel and like Rogue American apparel. He like we talk about hunting. Like me and Brock Lesnar could talk about hunting forever.
Right.
So like there's just I think that the Undertaker, because he is real quiet and stoic. So I think that part gets across well. But like when Undertaker first started in wrestling, everyone was like a huge character. Like now in wrestling as well, I like to call like the realism era. Like we're having like MMA fighters and like stuff like that come into play, and people like that because it's real and it's relatable. Like people, like, believe it or not, no longer want to see someone that's they can't relate to. That like, holy shit, like this Ultimate Warrior, like he's just crazy and so strong, and like people want to see like a part of themselves in wrestling now.
Yeah.
So
interesting. You're right. We're going away from those characters like the Undertaker and going more to like it, because you started out as Crazy Mary Dobson, right, or something? Was it?
And when I did death matches, before I went to WWE,
right, and then you went back and so I think that sort of speaks to that. Right now, you're just going by your name and just your personality just turned up a few notches, right?
Yeah, it was crazy that WWE like wanted who I was.
It's good.
Like, just naturally, like it was like I wanted to Vince's. So when I first started WWE, like they have like a makeup section for the girls, right? And like my face started like freaking out, like I was getting like eczema around my eye, like I just didn't like it. I didn't like it, my face didn't like it, and like I would see pictures of myself and all this makeup, and I was like, that's not what I freaking look like. Like, that isn't me, and that would for me that would bother me. So I went into Vince's office and was like, hey dude, I don't want to wear makeup anymore. I was like, I don't like it. I don't think my character needs it. Like, my face is literally peeling off. And he was like, I think you're expressive enough without it. I don't think you need to wear it either. And I was like, all right, thank you. And I shook his hand and I left. So, like, I am so thoroughly me at WWE that, like, you run into kind of two issues. Like, one issue is, like, am I too different? I can't just be, like, placed in any...
Sure.
Any like storyline. I can't just be placed in any, because I'm such a big personality that like you have to kind of protect it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it could so easily, like, I have such strong feelings about so many things that, and they respect that. And like, but that kind of bites me in the ass sometimes. So I'll get taken off TV for a few months, but then I'll get put in something that's awesome, you know?
But then you're in your own thing. Right. And this isn't to belittle anybody, but they have that image. All right. There's a lot of the same thing, and you're standalone from that. So that's a great thing. So even if they can't fit you in everything, when you are fit in, it's got to be more about you. So
yeah, and like WWE has it's been fantastic of like, just kind of, they're not going to tell you not to be you, and like being you might not always fit, but if you're okay with that, they're okay with that too. Like, it's not like I don't get paid. It's not like I don't have a great time when I go to TV, and like it's like a lot of people get caught up in, like, they put their worth in who they are in wrestling. And like, if you're not happy at home and you come to WWE and you put your worth into like a TV character, you're not going to be happy all the time, right? So like, I am so like happy at home, and I have such like a solid foundation that if I go to TV and I'm not used for a few months, I'm cool with that. Like, WWE can make you super happy. But like Dusty Rhodes says, like, you know, like, hard times, baby, you know, fucking hard times sometimes. Yeah, so like you have to kind of always like check yourself, and that goes with any workplace. Like, you need to be happy outside of it, because it's not something that's sustainable that can keep you happy.
Yeah, that persona, like, if you're wrapped up, your identity is wrapped up in what you do for a living, chances are it's going to go bad. Especially when it's a character that's so extreme. I mean, like you hear like the Ric Flair and all these guys that they started to believe that they actually were the persona, and
almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yeah, which is hard not to do, because especially if you're who you are on TV, truly who you are on TV, just turned up. It's hard not to get wrapped up in that. And social media is so mean. Like, I don't know if you guys have had an hour on the toilet to look at my hunting post, but like, holy crap. No. Like, if I put my worth into like what people said about me online, like I would go insane. And like, a lot of people can't help it, you know, like, to read into those things and like get caught up in it and start kind of putting their self-worth into that stuff. And like, I mean, on the same token, it's made me numb to like everything people say, you know, 'cause sometimes like people be like, I love you so much, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm sure. It's cool.
I say you just really go against it. You should start dragging a dead deer into the ring with you.
Well, not like, as part of an act, literally just to go in and just to gut and just to address the deer.
like, hey, I want to do an informational, informative segment today.
You're welcome.
Coronavirus had everyone worried. I'm going to show you how to make your own meat. You know, like, I tried at first to be kind of tasteful with my hunting post, right? It was like from behind, like you could see the deer and like the bow, but there was no blood and people still shit all over it. So I said, fuck it. And I just was like, this is who I am. This is like, this is what I do on Thursday. Yeah, like, I don't know what to tell y'all.
Your dad the whole time is like, yup. Prep.
My dad will argue with people. He's like, do you understand that hunting pays for your national parks that you do your stupid jogging in? Like, he's just
stupid jogging.
Convinced he's going to win the argument on the internet.
Yeah.
If you look at Papa Logan Marine, he is just angry
we're putting that
the
link
internet.
on.
Oh, definitely put a link onto that there. Your dad's followers just went up by at least 2.
Right.
At least 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you mentioned you said if you're not happy at home, right, then you can't be happy at work and stuff. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about your home life, because I think you guys have such an interesting story. Again, you guys have put it out there. You're married to Ray. You guys met, because kind of walk about like how you met another wrestler and what being married to another wrestler is like. If you guys body slam each other under the bed or what.
Right. Oh yeah, I can give you a couple stories about that. Not the bed part, but before. But
in a bad way, it's mean like you're literally just slamming each other into the kitchen.
Yeah, he's we had some couple instances here recently that I can tell you guys about. So I met Ray before we got to WWE. So we were independent wrestlers.
I'll say just for anybody listening who doesn't know, your husband Ray is also WWE wrestler. He plays Eric on the Viking Raiders, right?
Yeah. He plays a huge scary Viking on TV, and he was WB Tag Team Champion for a long time. Like him and they were like undefeated for like almost 2 years.
Wow.
Like they're wrecking machines. They're like the New Age Road Warriors.
Yeah.
You guys remember who those are?
Hell
Yeah.
But-
Sorry. So I didn't mean to interrupt. I just, for our listeners who don't know, you're married to another wrestler, so it's just the interesting dynamics at home. So kind of take us through what a day in the life of the Logan or in the Rose looks like.
Well, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever been a part of. Like we met. So Ray was a contracted wrestler through a company called Ring of Honor, and it was like a kind of an independent wrestling company. Like they drew like 1,000 or so at a show. Like it was a pretty good independent company, and I liked Ray, and I got booked on one of their shows, and like I saw him wrestle, and I was like, oh wow, like this guy's pretty hot and stuff. So I kept getting booked on Ring of Honor because I was trying to get in his pants. Like I kept getting booked, but like I had never done that before, so I was shit at it.
Yeah.
I would just like look at him, and then he'd look at me, and I'd look away, and I'd be like, all right, and I would go to look back at him, and he'd still be staring at me, and I was like, oh shit. So
You got beef?
So I just tried to I started like sending him my matches, and because he was a good wrestler, like he still is. And I was like, hey, will you watch my match? And like, let me know what you think. He was like, yeah, I'll watch your match. And so we started talking like on social media, which like gave me the courage to like kind of like be a little more edgy with my words. But like when he would see me in person, I was a total pussy. Like I would just be like, ugh. And one time he actually tried to like take me home after the show, and I had never had that happen to me before. So he was like, hey, what are you doing after this? And I was like, I'd probably just go home. I'm kind of tired.
Gonna dress a deer.
Yeah. You
Just
inadvertently shot him down. Yeah. Not even realize.
And then I left, and he was like, do you know I was trying to take you home? And I was like, what? But I was like 3 hours into a 6-hour drive. So I was like,
what? You want to fight?
Yeah. I totally blew it. But I guess that like it showed up. I was playing hard to get, is what I tell him. But in actuality, it was just stupidity and not knowing how human interactions work. But we started like talking, and we started talking to the point where it was getting like we were talking a lot, and it kind of scared Ray, and he kind of like was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I was like, all right, dude, respect, like I get it. But like a week later, we were gonna be on a show together, and like I got another message from him, and I was like, got him. Like this guy ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
And got him. Because like I wasn't known to like do that. Like I hadn't slept with any wrestlers. Like I hadn't. So I was like, dude, I freaking like you. Like this isn't I'm not bullshitting here. Like I date people to marry them. I don't I'm not just like, oh, you'd seem fun. So we started kind of dating, and we were just getting each other booked on various independent shows, and like without us even like I got hired at WWE first, but I didn't get him a job at WWE. That just happened separately. So it's like crazy how like our paths have like come together so great. Like it's hard to date a wrestler. Like we're gone, you know, like 300 days out of the freaking year, and it's real hard if you have someone at home, especially with all our hobbies. Like we do the Viking stuff. We do like if Ray didn't wrestle and I was gone for a week and I came home, it was like, hey, nice to see you. I'm gonna go hunt for 4 days out west. Like that wouldn't be okay.
Yeah.
So it's awesome that like our hobbies are the same. Like I got him into hunting. Like I did it first, and he was like, I totally support you doing it. He's like, it's not my thing, but like that's cool. But we got the property here. We own like 50 acres. And I got Ray a crossbow for Christmas.
You say there. You're up in Kentucky right now, right?
No, we're like 45 minutes outside of Cleveland.
Oh, right on. Okay.
His family lives in Cleveland, and it's like an awesome, like huge, big Catholic family. And like I kind of made the decision that if I want kids, I want them to like be around that like family aspect. Like, and my parents actually moved like an hour from us because I'm awesome and they missed me. So
All right.
I was like, I'm moving 6 hours away. You can come live here if you want. They're like, okay.
So you mentioned you've been working with like Tim Kennedy, and I've seen you do a bunch of other tactical training. How did that all come about? Is that just another one of your hobbies? Is just being prepared, knowing your stuff tactically?
Yeah, I had heard about I heard about Tim Kennedy from Shayna Baszler, which is another. She's like an OG in women's MMA. That works for WWE now. She's one of my best friends, and she was like, dude, like I would like this guy's freaking awesome, and he owns this company called Sheepdog Response where they do these like tactical courses and blah blah blah. And I was like, that sounds freaking awesome. And this was years ago, and I was on Instagram and Rogue American Apparel. They have like Invader Coffee, and I love their coffee. So I've been following them, and I saw they were hosting a sheepdog event at their location. I was like, hell yeah. I was like, dude, can I come? And he was like, yeah, please come on. And like, I went and I took their TTRC class, which is their medical like trauma class.
Right. Yeah.
And the guy that runs it, his name is Matt Smith. He is qualified out the wazoo. Like he was the lead medic for like Delta Force. He is like the lead scuba diving instructor for like all the branches of military. Like he has seen it all and is a legitimate badass. Mm-hmm. And the amount of information he crammed into my head, because I was a little side note, I was a firefighter for like a few months before I got signed to WWE, but I learned more in 2 days than I learned being a firefighter tenfold.
Right.
Like the amount he was able to kind of teach us. And then I met the Sheepdog guys because he's part of their team, and I went to take their level 1 Sheepdog course in Vegas, and we did like hand-to-hand combat and shooting like 2 days in a row. And it was very awesome to like, there was no guy there except for like the black belts that could like outroll me. Like there was like full grown men I was just beating up. Like I would like get I would like get past their guard and like they could do nothing. Yeah. And it made me feel awesome. I was like, wow, this is a real confidence booster for me. But I really like being prepared and knowing that like if shit were to go down, that I am more prepared than most.
Yeah.
Because I do live out in the middle of nowhere, and like my response time for someone to come to my house is like 45 minutes to an hour, and that is in a life or death situation. So I need to have like stuff here to like hold fast for a while. Yeah. And that's if someone in a life or death situation. So I'm very thankful for the Sheepdog guys.
Yeah. So was it Lieutenant Grossman says you don't pick when the boogeyman comes to visit. So always be ready. I think I might be misquoting that, but because this is all the times to think about something like that. This might be the perfect time for an interview.
Right here in the middle of our Corona national emergency. Hey, tell us a little bit about, because there's so much on the internet about you and Ray and your Viking wedding and that whole Viking thing, because it's Josh and I watched your wedding video on YouTube over the last week, and we kind of laughed.
I just wept. I wept. It was a full blown. I cry
every time I watch it.
Yeah, it was actually it was the most aggressive I now pronounce you husband and wife I've ever heard, and we'll actually put a clip of that up there. I don't know if I wept so much as was terrified.
Ray actually didn't ask me to marry him. He like told me. So
okay. In true Viking style.
Me. And I was like, okay, but he
you are mine now.
Yeah, our wedding matched our relationship tenfold. And me and Ray are really into, I love history. And I grew up, my dad just telling me he's real into history because he loves like America's history, and he loves how like we became a country, and like just grew up like super freaking patriotic, and we kind of loving history so much. And I kind of branched out into other histories. And the Viking history is so awesome. Like this group of people that kind of outweigh their population in like the north and like Scandinavia, that they had to travel south just because they were run out of food, and like they went to places and like of course like raided and like took their, because like they were like, oh, these big buildings have a bunch of gold and no one wants to fight us back. Awesome. So they would go to these churches and monasteries and tear it down, but like they would go to like farm and like set up. They didn't just go places to take what they had and leave. They were like, our land is so overpopulated and so dead that we need other places to like farm and hold up. And me and Ray kind of, we're enablers in each other's obsessions bad. So like we're like, oh, we're like into this Viking shit, like that's awesome. And like we found a place that it's called Ravensburg in Missouri, and this guy on his land had built an actual Viking village. And
Wow.
you go to this Viking village and everything has to be like historically accurate. Like you have to like wear either wool or linen. You have to like your shoes have to be right. Like all of it has to be historically accurate. And I was like, that's freaking cool. So we started doing research onto like all the like so we could go to this place and be accurate, like kind of like hone up our knowledge. And then we found in the midst of doing that there are groups of people that get together and fight with historically accurate weapons, historically accurate, like everything. So like, and I was like, is this like LARPing? And Ray was like, no, like it's actual competitive fighting with that, but the blades aren't sharp. It's like fancy crowbar fight club. Like it's, but with a Viking
And they
overlay.
actually take each other's women at the end, whoever wins.
There's not a lot of chicks, and I've never been beat, so I don't know if they would
Weird.
take me.
So
But it was.
Do you have
Is that
to
where you
define
guys got
yourself?
married?
Sorry, guys. Do you find yourself having to like explain like, hey, this isn't LARPing. This is a historical.
Oh, all the time. Because like if you see pictures, it's us dressed up as Vikings fighting with weapons. So
Right.
like I was like, that's LARPing. But
Uh-huh.
like there's no like special names. There's no spells. There's no like
You're not
the way
throwing.
we do kills and stuff is if like you hit me, if you get a clean cut on me in a spot that would have killed me, all right, you won, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But like there's different styles of the fighting. Like my favorite's called Eastern, and it's in full armor, and you just beat the living shit out of each other until like the person like just falls, and it's
Yeah, that's way more legit than throwing tennis balls and yelling lightning bolt, or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't have the imagination.
Yeah.
And I'm too competitive to like.
Yeah, fake
I
it.
think LARP.
Yeah,
But
I get it.
like if you hit me so hard with a sword, I collapse because my leg shut off. All right, I believe you would have killed me. Like fair play.
Nice.
That's funny. Hey, so we got to ask it. We're getting close to our spot here. What's next for you? What's next, either professionally, personally?
So we are building a house here we call this Roseborg, my property. And we're building a house, and we're going to build a slaughterhouse. We have a few outbuildings. We're going to build a slaughterhouse, and we're really hoping to dive more into like the hunting world. We just kind of hooked up with Chad Mendez to kind of be part of his Fins and Feathers company, and we're hoping I want to elk hunt. I've only hunted whitetail. Like I said, I've never really traveled if it's not for wrestling. And I want to hunt elk. I want to hunt bear. I want to. We're gonna try to start our habitat here is like super Midwest habitat. It's like open woods, not super sustainable for whitetail. So we're gonna transform our land into a whitetail habitat, and we're gonna try to like have people on that. And I'm just really hoping to get into more hunting this year, like bow hunting. I love the intimacy of bow hunting.
You've associated yourself with some pretty good names. I mean, Chad Mendez, a lot of people will know him from the world of MMA. And then with Tim Kennedy, the guy from who else? You're big into the bow world too. I've seen you. I've seen some of your posts.
John Dudley. He is the Knock On Nation dude.
Yep.
We went to his farm in Iowa, and like he treated us fantastic. Like he helped us hone our bow hunting skills. And like a few months ago in Chillicothe, I took down 6 deer in 2 days.
Wow.
From like taking his class with my freaking compound bow, and that one of them was like the biggest 10-point buck I've ever seen in my life.
That's a freezer full of meat there, huh?
Oh yeah, we're stocked up. Like we're freaking good. And I've been very fortunate that like if wrestling has done nothing else for me, it's helped put me in contact with people that are helping me become a better survivalist, a better person, a better hunter. Like it's opened the door for so many relationships that I probably would have never gotten if I still lived in Columbia, Kentucky, you know? So I'm very thankful for that. And I'm hoping to like branch out more in those like ventures and become someone that has so much knowledge accumulated from all these people that I can help pass that on to. So a lot of stuff that we're hoping to get into this year and hoping to really like soar and freaking change our woods into somewhere we can hunt here. We're hoping to hunt around the world. We're hoping to just make this a place that I will never have to leave. I can just stay here and live and not worry about any more viruses.
Yeah, I see. Depending how this goes, you might not have a choice. But yeah, listen, we really appreciate sitting down and taking the time to talk to us. It's awesome to see somebody. You see a lot of people just change whoever their personality just to become something else. So it's cool. It's refreshing, I think, for a lot of people to.
Yeah, and you said a couple things throughout this our 50 minutes here together that really speak to your character. Like, hey, I want to learn as much as I can so I can give back, and I want to be a sponge and absorb as much information, and I want to take in the Japanese culture and learn as much as I can about it. It really speaks volumes about who you are, and so it's cool. We appreciate that you shared that with us.
It's if I hang out with you and you can teach me something, like be careful because you're stuck with me. Like I will bother you until you hang out with me again and teach me more stuff. So if any person that is a savant in something that thinks they're going to hang out with me and you don't want a relationship to be forever, then don't. Because I'll
be honest, you're pretty cool, but I really want to hang out with your dad. I feel like he just like Budweiser hunting. Yeah, I think we'd be best friends.
I have to bring a bunch of people over and like just sit my dad down and be like, all right, Dad, tell them things that you think are important.
All right, cool. Listen, Sarah, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Where can we find you on social?
I'm Sarah Logan, WWE, like pretty much everywhere.
Okay.
My Instagram is a lot more hopping than Twitter.
Okay.
I only post on Twitter when I can hit that button on Instagram that says Twitter too.
Yeah.
Really. So Sarah Logan WWE on Instagram, and don't follow me if you don't want to see hunting posts because I get a lot of that. And I'm like, just unfollow me. I don't understand. Do you just want to come here and complain? Cool.
Right.
But
yeah, cool. Awesome. That's a wrap, everybody. Thanks for checking us out. Make sure you like, download, subscribe, all that good stuff on all the big platforms. That's where you'll find us. We're big time. Thanks to Sarah. Thanks for letting us pick your brain for a while and spending some of your pandemic quarantine chatting with us. So, hey, listen, everybody, be safe. Bunker in. It's going to be a long ride. Watch out for each other. And we'll catch you on next time.